John Cacaldi and Nathan Rankin were like killing it overseas, and there was a couple of guys before that done well overseas as well. And then the racing in New Zealand, the mountain bike racing on a national level was just real relaxed and like good track, good people, and then the racing was always on a Saturday, so you just have a big layer up afterwards, and it was just so social. Like when you're like 16, 18, 20, like that's good, like that's kind of what you want from your weekends is do stuff.
You're racing and still living like a 16 to 20-year-old rather than just racing.
Exactly, and you're doing it with your mates, and you're doing like like pretty wild stuff, I guess, and then that's social, and then you're doing like traveling as well, so it was like it was kind of ideal, like it was. And I guess it's more of it's like probably more of a lifestyle, back then, and I guess that's kind of what, like for example, you or Blinky, obviously traveling around doing the same stuff. I can see that you've still got that spirit, and I think all of us have that. Still,
Make the most of what you do, rather than just go there for a race and it's almost a job. Like for a lot of people now, it's become like that, I think.
No doubt, and even when I was doing it, it was definitely like that, and you kind of could try and balance it a little bit, I think. So yeah.
But there's those early years of New Zealand nationals were probably the best times in mountain biking, I think, even still now. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. Like looking back on that, it's like you would not change that for anything. Like I don't like no team or series that I ever raced or followed or went and did stuff with later on was never the same. Like it was just you look back on that and like that was just insane, like and like the memories and the bonds you have with the people that you did that with are like they're just lasting.
And I think every single race you'd come home with a story to tell, whereas like now there's like 1 or 2 races in the year if you're lucky, and it's still like. And once you're in a team and on a program, then it's all kind of it just happens and nothing. There's not really anything special. It's
there's nothing. There's nothing that can go wrong.
Yeah, it's all to schedule.
The stories happen when it goes wrong, and you know what I mean. Yeah, so yeah.
But and also probably those years were real good because it was real competitive. Like everyone was pushing each other, even though it was a big party afterwards. Whatever, it was still like super competitive for who could win those races.
That's a massive part of it, for sure.
It brought on a number of professional riders out of those years.
Yeah, it's actually like even now, like that's kind of unprecedented, right? Like, I don't know, maybe like you could compare it to France now or Aussie before kind of the whole Kiwi thing came on, but yeah, for sure it was, and it's not like I don't really know moto, but I've heard, and then BMX obviously, when you're racing like side by side on a track like that, it's very easy for other riders to blame you for them not doing so well. But in a downhill race, you can only really, when you're a privateer like that, you can only really blame yourself. So you're not going to like take that grudge to the pub, are you, afterwards? So you'd race hard, push each other hard, and then you'd be pissed off for half an hour, but then later on, it's just everyone's forgotten about it, So
and it was whoever could party the hardest. There was some some towns that wore the brunt of it sometimes.
I don't think, maybe that's why some of those good tracks kind of disappeared a little bit, because the towns probably put petitions into
avoid. But definitely the best years, I think, of my racing.
For sure, yeah. Oh no, it's for me too, for sure. Yeah, and like even the bikes, like just the wheel sizes were good. The bikes were like getting better, but they were still you were a bit out of control.
Sketchy,
and then the tracks were raw, and it's proper. In my mind, it's really proper technical kind of mountain biking. I guess, things change, and it's definitely different parts of it are more or less technical now. But yeah, just the whole thing was so raw,
Yeah,
flat pedals, and like guys were like riding clips sometimes and flats others, and then like I think you were like full-time flats, and
yeah,
Blinky flats all the way up until like 2012 kind of thing. So it was just that kind of generation, I guess.
yeah. I don't know why we all stuck with the flats thing, but it was just like you had to. Pretty much
For sure.
those early Earth videos probably just put us on flats with the Sam Hill stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was so good for sure. That's definitely where I took a lot of my inspiration from.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, less so from the flats guys, but yeah, more. Obviously being a BMXer and stuff, more used to that clipped in feeling. But yeah, when it
Heck,
gets muddy, it's good to be able to pull that out, the flats, if you can ride them.
yeah, yeah, for sure. There's a few guys that have won races because they had flats on a wet race. G Atherton's pretty much a key one. He's done, I think, Champery 2010. He won on flats, and then he won in Cairns when it rained there. He
Oh, that's right.
borrowed some
That's you
fans'
borrowed
shoes.
the, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty gnarly,
yeah, yeah.
actually. That's yeah.
And
Yeah, I
he,
think I didn't do too many World Cups on flats, but definitely Maribor in like 2010 when it was super muddy,
I,
and then Chambéry as well. That was always a good one for flats. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I rode flats until 2013.
can
I think.
you can you have you tried to ride them on downhill bike lately, or is
No,
it?
no, not for a long time.
I would love to see that.
Good, but Paigey was putting a challenge to me that I race an EWS on flats and one on clips.
That sounds yeah, that could be good.
Because I think actually when it's super awkward, maybe you can go faster with flats.
Yeah, I guess Sam doesn't have that problem still,
No,
does he?
no.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have many problems, but
No, that's some
yeah,
serious leg strength to keep yourself on the bike, hitting all the choppy bumps and stuff. Like,
yeah, yeah. And even
yeah,
more, sometimes he'll often win the flattest stages.
that's crazy.
And it's super bumpy where it's hard to pedal. So it's
Yeah,
like, what?
you can't pedal. You've got to be in the hardest gear so your feet don't just fly out the front.
Yeah, yeah, and super long pedal pins.
Yeah, and then long stages, so like physical. So yeah, I just that just doesn't add up to me, but makes
I
it work
think his style probably is harder to emulate with clips though.
for
The
sure.
the way he's so aggressive in the corners and he carries speed rather than having to pedal.
Yeah, and the long bikes too. Now I don't think you can have your weight properly over your heels or through your feet.
Yeah,
On the longer bike, it just throws your body position out, and then you lose all your grip on the front. And I think, I don't know, it looks like he's still riding like potentially not a size down, but you know what I mean. Like
but
he's kind
shorter.
of
Yeah, he's not
yeah,
on a pole.
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
the big long rig. He doesn't have one
yeah.
of those. Or the Geometron.
Oh, that's, some people, I just like I watched some racing, like obviously like last year and stuff, and I'm just like, how does that guy have front end grip? Like he's the bike is so long. It's
Yeah.
like, do you notice that? Do you like pick up on that stuff?
Oh, a little bit like, yeah. You
Yeah,
see some of that stuff and you're just like, what are they doing?
yeah, yeah, for sure. He's like the guy who's like should be on a medium and he's got like a double XL or something.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a common style, one of those like new downhill bikes, and he's two sizes too big. But
Too
anyway,
too small's
yeah,
pretty bad though as well.
that's pretty bad. That's what we were on in '08 though.
Yeah.
'06, '07, '08. Probably like they didn't get big until like, you know, 15 or
Yeah,
16, really.
it's pretty crazy actually how long it took for the development because why was someone just not on a big rig then, like Steve
Yeah,
Pete or someone? Why was he not
oh,
on a big bike?
for sure.
Yeah,
It's just it shows you how strong. Maybe not like like if you think of mountain biking as like a culture, like those norms that we have, like that's normal to have that size bike. Like
yeah,
if you
yeah,
have one that's way too long, it's like that's way too long. It's kind of like you don't really like think about it because all your mates are on the same
yeah.
shit.
So you just think it's normal, and that's the
Yeah,
only way.
that's it. Yeah, it's the only way, but yeah, it's definitely changed since then.
Yeah, the sports come forward leaps and bounds, but I was kind of happy that started racing then, because I think it would be way harder now,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
as a privateer anyway.
And you got that kind of to experience that from that wheel size and that suspension style and those frames and the design principles in the sport. Then you've kind of experienced all of that to now, and obviously it's going to keep changing. But
Yeah,
I I don't really see another era in time where there was so much technology change and everything's jumped so far, that yeah, you've just had all that experience, and then
and
you've had all that stuff from like the 90s when you were
yeah,
started racing.
first
you
started,
know
yeah, the
yeah,
terrible
like
bike,
yeah,
terrible
yeah,
bikes, yeah,
you'd never see that now. The kids just got straight on there. I think you were talking to Sam Dale about that the other week. you
yeah,
know they're straight on the
the
you
best
know
bike, yeah, like
yeah,
an enduro bike. It's
yeah,
$5,000 or whatever, and it
that's
does
it.
everything for them, but then they don't
Yeah,
learn. So they
for sure.
actually, I think they slow their progress doing that.
Yeah, even the flat pedals thing, I reckon, like it just teaches you pretty good technique to like lock your feet down and stay strong through your legs.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. You have to,
yeah,
or
yeah,
your feet come off. Yeah,
steer your bike properly, rather than. But maybe it's maybe the techniques changing as well with the how I was talking about the longer bike before. Maybe the techniques is changing with the bike.
yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, another
But I'm
5 years might be able to
not
figure that out.
sure how it would go in 5 years either for racing. If there'll be the same number of kids getting into racing or not, because it seems like they all follow the social media guys, and they're like more swinging to that side now. So probably less kids will race, I think.
For sure, yeah, yeah. I think um, this next generation of riders coming through is less competitive, aren't they? I
Yeah,
have sort of noticed that. Yeah,
and they're all
yeah,
trying to turn a corner and roost the corner, even if they're not really roosting it.
right. Yeah, rather than trying to rail it and hit it
Yeah,
fast. Yeah, and
yeah.
then they just ride berms all the time. They can't corner on flat corners.
No, it was.
Anyway, yeah.
No one would be trying to roost the corner when we were young. It was like you try and go as fast as you could.
Yeah, and if you were roosting it, it was because you were just cutting it loose because you're just
Yeah,
on the
on the
limit
limit.
of your
Yeah,
grip. Yeah,
not
that's
not
it.
because you're swinging your hips and trying to roost it.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
find now if I'm sliding like that gnarly on my bike, like you slide a little bit, but like if you're sliding that gnarly now, it probably means you're gonna because like once they not once they go, but like it's harder to just cut those kind of like drifties through the corners now. I find, but
yeah,
yeah,
because the
there's just
bike's way more stable.
yeah, way more grip and yeah. But if you're getting that loose, you're probably swapping out. You're probably just gonna go down.
Yeah, yeah. '06 you got picked up by Laha Bikes, a New Zealand carbon fiber company, carbon fiber bikes with an internal gearbox, pretty much the carbon fiber version of a Zeroed. And
It
then you
was
rode
pretty.
for them.
It was pretty ahead of its game looking back now, and I think yeah, it was that Aaron was onto a pretty good thing there. It's a shame that he couldn't ride that out and still be making bikes and selling them. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was a pretty sick bike, and as you know, um, experienced it for yourself, and yeah, it was just So yeah, kind of got an opportunity there. Went for that, and sort of at the same time, the Maxis US team were kind of looking at me because obviously John Cacaldi was sort of still on that team at the time,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I was kind of like they were helping me out a little bit. I went and actually did Sea Otter with them. Just kind of, I guess I had like just a sort of, I was signed with Laha, but I had an extra week or two where I could go and ride some other bikes and stuff. So I went over to Sea Otter and did that,
Yeah.
and then got on the Laha and then took that overseas with me when I went and did my second kind of Euro trip.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously that year it was World Champs in New Zealand. It was kind of gearing up for that. So everyone was chasing the dream to race for New Zealand at a World Champs in the home country. So that was
Yeah.
a pretty big motivating thing for everyone that year, or even the year before that, I guess, with people chasing UCI points and stuff and trying to get set up for it and prove they were the ones who should be on the team. So
Yeah,
yeah,
was pretty cool to have the Worlds in New Zealand.
that
A
was
special one.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was insane. Yeah, for sure.
And I
Yeah,
think, yeah, the course was actually pretty good. Did it justice as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. Even the conditions were good too. Like
Yeah, it
it was
was
not wet, but
hard.
it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
But
that was,
it all went pretty well for you that one, taking the junior title.
yeah, it was a big year. It was, we did 3 months in Europe, training and racing out of Morzine, and living at like Jason Marsh's house in a upstairs kind of situation there with quite a few mountain bikers.
Situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it would have been packed, wouldn't it?
yeah, we had two guys and we had three guys in the main room on the inside, which was like the main bedroom up top.
Yeah,
And then across the hallway was Jason Marsh, who kind of subletted that room to us.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure, he was getting a good deal out of that. He was probably taking some cash home, so that's all good.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
we had one guy each side of the room, basically in like a closet. And one side was Mike Skinner, and the
Yeah.
other side was Craig Peddle. So there was like
Oh,
me, Nathan Rankin, Tom Holland, and then each side there was a doorway into like a closet thing. There was no window, no, yeah, just had like one light, and yeah,
oh,
that was kind of the preparation, just that, and traveling to Spain, Switzerland, Italy, around
yeah,
France a little bit,
yeah,
and yeah, it was just prep was just all focused on yeah, world champs, and then came back for that, and yeah, it was cold when we got home.
yeah. Yeah, I remember it was pretty cold that whole World's week, eh?
Yeah, it was cold. It was
Yeah,
hard to get reacclimatized to that, but it was all
yeah.
good in the end. Yeah,
Coming from the European summer,
yeah, for sure.
but did you have some good races in Europe before that? You were coming in hot, or
Oh, honestly, man, not really. Yeah,
really?
yeah. I think we went to Willingen. It was
Oh,
like it was the only downhill World Cup we did
right.
that year. And we went up there, and it was super flat. It wasn't actually a good track for the Lahar because it was just
No.
so flat.
Yeah.
But I had a good quali, and then blew up in my race run, and then yeah, actually I had kind of like a few. My pace was there all year because I'd sort of jumped up a level that summer before when I was at home racing on like an Iron Horse Sunday or whatever
Yeah.
for kind of under Aaron's thing, and then he had a bit of a team going, and then yeah, obviously got on the Lahara, and I don't know what it was, maybe just took some time to get used to. It was definitely a good bike, especially in Europe where the mountains were bigger and the bumps were bigger, and you needed that kind of traction and that, obviously with that design on that frame, just mellowed everything out. but yeah, it was kind of weird. Like I didn't really pull anything out, and then kind of, but I just came home super confident
Yeah.
for some reason, and I think it was just potentially the results I had on the track at the Oceanias and the national champs we had there the
Yeah.
February or March before that. Yeah, so wasn't super, but just, and then I had like a plan, and I stuck to my plan.
Yep.
Like the team had like video sessions every night, kind of
I
like
yeah.
French style. And honestly, I never went to one of those because I hadn't done that all season, and that's not how I was rolling. And so I just kind of really stuck to my guns on a few things and just kind of stuck to my plan. And I think that's on the day when we actually had the race, because even in qualifying, like my clip shoe broke in
I
qualifying,
yeah.
and the sole basically fell out of my shoe.
Yeah.
It was like stuck to my pedal, so I didn't have a very good qualifying, but I knew the time I did was like pretty good considering. So
Yeah.
I think I took a bit of confidence from that too. So yeah, just sticking with the plan, and I guess yeah, just that all those years of BMX racing and stuff, you have that repetition. Like every weekend, you've got your that's your thing. You have all the things to get you in the zone. So when you hit Sunday afternoon, you're like peaking. You haven't peaked too early, or you're not still building your speed up. You just like hit it right when you need to. I think
Yeah.
just all that racing and stuff helped with that. Yeah.
It's quite an
So,
advantage for kids coming that have already done years of BMX, I think.
yeah, any sort of racing. I guess you probably see it with moto a bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, just that competitive kind of, every weekend. You just get to practice your techniques and play
Yeah.
around with things a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
probably do more racing when you have like motocross or BMX. You have so many races.
for
So
sure. Yeah,
like one race
definitely.
can be a few different heats and then a final. So
Yeah,
in one day you've got five races. Then you
5 races
learn.
for
Yeah.
sure. Whereas downhill, you go for the weekend and you get a quali and a final, and
Yeah.
you spend all your weekend trying to dial the track in. So
And there's no room for any error really in downhill, especially
that's it.
now even more. But even then,
Yeah,
still, there's no space for a mistake.
yeah, you got to pull it out. That's it
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's kind of what I guess that's that thing with like just peaking at the right time, like not peaking too early, and then like just not just getting it wrong, like still
yeah.
building your speed up on Sunday. You just need to hit it right.
And if you
Yeah,
went to those video things, you probably would have been worried about your lines the whole time and not really focused on your own race.
I think that's what I was afraid of. It was just like
Yeah,
I was just confident in what I was doing, and yeah, you see that with guys who kind of hover around like used to be the top 80 or whatever, like that guy that's like always
yeah,
getting 80th or 90th or 100, and he's trying to get in the show, and it's like he's just stressing himself out over the
yeah,
lines other people are riding, and it just takes so much energy away from like what you just need to do to like do what you need to do.
yeah. It is hard though if you're watching on the side of the track and then everyone looks way faster because you're standing on the side, but you don't really
That
realize that.
No, you don't. You don't
Yeah,
until someone points it out to you, I think.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You're
yeah,
like, oh, I
yeah.
can't be going that fast.
Yeah. I think the best thing is just to not stop.
Yeah,
Just
quite
keep
often, yeah,
going. Yeah, keep going, and then as well walk the track when there's no one else on it, because you just
yeah,
get so much shit talking, you
yeah,
know, on the
yeah,
track walk. Like, we used to do track walks, and you do the track walk, and you get to the bottom, and you can't even remember the track. You've just been talking shit.
yeah.
You know?
But
So yeah, I found doing that on my own was better too. There's so many things you learn over the years, but yeah.
yeah, that that run at the World Champs, everything went as you planned, or you pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, I definitely wouldn't change that one. It was probably, I don't know, a little bit, I wouldn't say conservative, but just, yeah, I
Safe.
guess I stuck to the plan. So
Yeah,
in my mind, maybe it was safe, but I guess I went the right speed for the track. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just did what I could do. Had
Yeah.
some new shoes on, and that was all good.
Yeah.
Didn't have
Sweet.
any problems there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that was the main thing. Yeah, yeah.
Blinky, he laid it all out there, but also had crashes and put himself second with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he kind of hung it out, and I guess that's maybe one of those instances where the whole BMX background kind of thing paid off. Just
Yeah.
having done all that racing and just maybe
Yeah.
the video sessions too. I don't know what Blinky was up to if he was going to those or not, but maybe maybe he saw me on the track or something, and the day before, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's pretty cool to have two Kiwis on there anyway. Like that. That was, I think New Zealand's first downhill men's gold medal,
Yeah.
junior or elite, and then two Kiwis, just 1 and 2. So, and it was pretty gnarly that year. That year it was like, it was like Brendan,
Yeah.
Sam Dale, or might have been Matt, because Matt Simmons probably you're above us, just like a year or two.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, Simmons was in there. There's a couple of Frenchies, Antoine.
Yeah. Bad Wild or
Last name.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was banging around for a few years there,
Yeah.
pretty fast, and few Aussies as well.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was a
so
good group of Aussies, but none of them really put it together. It's a bit wet for them, I think.
they couldn't handle the mud. Yeah,
Yeah.
too too many
But
slippery routes, I think, for
but
them.
they
Yeah,
were all really good at the Norbers, those guys.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, that would have been kind of a dream come true to win there. And then it's probably hard to then go on after that. Like you've been junior world champion, so then you got to match that,
yeah,
the next
yeah, for
season.
sure. Yeah, yeah. It's sort of. I guess you still see that a little bit, Like with riders that um, get to that point in their career that early on.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's you're just not quite ready for it, or you just it's just that expectation after that is that you're going to win, which obviously that's kind of unrealistic. But as a rider, you put that on yourself.
yeah,
And yeah, especially with the guy, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of seen it time again. Like it takes 2 or 3 years for the people that win that race to come right.
yeah. A
Um,
lot of guys,
yeah, even
even
like
a lot of the best ones, even like Loris and that, like
yeah,
struggle have a
Josh for
year of
sure.
struggle. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Josh took quite a while,
yeah.
and then he
Been
pulled it
some
all out.
exceptional ones, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then he just got it clicking for him again. But yeah, he's kind of see it. Even guys kind of like Finn Isles, like
yeah.
kind of now, like
He
high
could.
expectations, brought up through the system, and
Yeah,
just basically been a professional since he
day
was
one. Yeah,
first year junior. Yeah, which
yeah,
is I don't that was kind of that wasn't any of us. Like we were kind of.
yeah.
It wasn't like that when we were sort of coming up through that age, but
I
you
think it's
still see
quite
it for sure.
hard to go through that and be professional rider straight away from junior, and then like not let it get to you or overthink that you're like professional rider already. You think you've already made it, kind of.
For sure, it kind of
Yeah,
accentuates that whole, if you win a junior world championship when you're that age, and you're like already like basically a full-time professional,
yeah,
it all just piles on and piles on, and I don't know if it's like your brain hasn't fully
yeah,
matured or you're just learning things or whatever, but it's hard to manage it.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
But then you signed for Maxis after that.
Yeah, got straight on with Maxis, and then went racing in the US. But the dream was always to just do World Cups, because that was kind of where it was at, and that was like the best. The World Cups were like where the good guys were, the good tracks. So
Yeah,
just I was keen to get there as soon as possible, really. And I just sort of saw that US thing as like a way to
stepping
get there.
stone. Yeah,
Yeah. Even though those races weren't amazing, '07 was We started out doing they still Norbers then, I think.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like aiming towards like the North American World Cups later in the year, and then kind of like after that, like a trip to Europe later
Yeah.
on that year as well. Yeah, which for me actually never happened because I got a pretty big injury that in '07 at Deer Valley at
Yeah.
the
What
Northern.
happened there?
Got a big endo on a rock gap thing, and just kind of went to my head and my arm and dislocated my wrist and got a little concussion. But yeah, just the dislocated wrist blew a few ligaments out, and it took about 5 months to come right. So it was obviously like halfway through the season, it was like
Yeah.
pretty much ruled me out for the whole year. Yeah.
But then, oh wait, then you finally racing in Europe, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. And back on a like bike I was happy to be on and stuff as well, and good suspension,
Yeah.
good tires, just like happy with everything.
On the Rocky Mountain, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
'08 was the Iron Horse.
Oh, I
That
see,
was
Iron Horse with
yeah,
the Maxis and Fox. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. That was and then that was because that was your first year to Europe as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I had an
I,
Iron
I
Horse.
remember I remember in May, like well before because World Champs were in Val di Sole that year,
Yeah.
we went to that test race and we drove, was it Marshy's car or something, and we followed the syndicate guys there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
With Nige, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was
Yeah.
at night. Yeah, yeah.
I think so.
So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit of a trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. I was happy with all that stuff. So and just just absolutely stoked to be in Europe racing World Cups. Yeah.
And you had some good results there that season.
Yeah, it was kind of up and down. I was pretty inconsistent, but I think I was still kind of bouncing back from the injury. But I was really happy with my riding. Like I think I pulled like a 38th at the first World Cup, which was after not really doing World Cups for like the whole year before, and then
Yeah.
the World Cup, the first World Cup or the World Cup, the last one I did before that was Willingen in '06. So it was like probably almost 2 years, So
Yeah.
and yeah, like the track was like super super fast that year. I don't know if you remember, but it was like pretty hard pack and like not super dusty but dry, so it was like pretty grippy as well.
Yeah.
And it was going fast. And I remember in my run, just like looking back on it, I was just like, man, it was like a couple of bits. Like I kind of like felt like I nailed it. So just
Yeah.
kind of like a confidence builder, like yeah, on a proper Euro track against all the Euros and stuff to
Yeah.
be like a sort of top 50 was pretty stoked. Yeah,
At Maribor it was.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was around.
That was still
Yeah.
my favorite year that we went to Maribor, I think, because
Oh, it was
just the way the
so
track
good.
was running, it was so fast.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
And
it
a
was
little
me.
bit
And
loose still, so you could still. It's like was fun the whole time.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And I think that year was like, I don't know, there was like there was a bit more hype around the World Cup too that year. Like
Yeah.
might have been like a new title sponsor or
Yeah. It was Nissan. No, it was Nissan World Cup.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe they'd upgraded all the video footage on the side of the track, so the TV show was like way better as well. So it was kind of like
Yeah.
I think that was kind of a bit of a point from downhill kind of to start making
Yeah.
some inroads into,
Getting more
um,
professional.
for sure,
Yeah.
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 But no, the rest of that year, I can't remember other bits. I can't remember. I think we went to Andorra that year as
Yeah. That
well.
was the second round. Yeah. On the
Yeah, we
short
rode
track
the
though.
flat
Right?
one up the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, the just the traversy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, which wasn't too bad. But and then I sort of I think I struggled a bit through the middle of the season. And then Mount St Anna came right. I think I don't know, qualified top 20 for the first time, and
So
then was having a real good run, and then just slipped out on a road and hit a tree. So it
yeah.
was kind of like it was like another one of those things. Like I knew I had the pace, and just like another confidence builder. Like
Yeah.
like kind of hit like a good quality like that, kind of
Yeah.
like, you know, what it's like in your head, you're like, okay, I'm kind of where I belong. I'm not like,
Yeah.
I'm not fighting for this thing that like isn't
Out of
gonna
reach.
happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, sure. So it's kind of like good confidence builder. And then we had Cairns World Cup,
Yeah.
yeah, world champs in Val di Sole, which for me wasn't amazing, but it was pretty gnarly. It was super wet.
Yeah.
So that was pretty scary for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, obviously, that's kind of when that track became legendary right off the bat with
Yeah. With Sam's run.
Sam. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Petey was kind of like in his prime, and he was kind of going for
For
like
the
a world
win. Yeah.
championship, and it
Yeah.
had been so long, since he, um, could do that. And then we went to Canberra, and then Schladming, I think, was World Cup finals.
Yeah.
So bit of
Good.
travel there, yeah, just a real good experience to just get all that racing like under my belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then did you go the next year onto Rocky Mountain Bike, or they changed?
Definitely, yeah. So we tested that bike out they had like the original flatline, which was a bit of a bender, that bike.
Yeah.
But we tested it out at the Montsanam World Cup. We hung around for a day afterwards, and the Rocky guys bought that out for us to ride. It actually felt really good. It was pretty heavy, like
Yeah.
it wasn't, So basically, we had that bike, and we knew the linkage design was feeling pretty good and working good, and we basically just went we put the Iron Horse next to it, and we basically just kind of went, you guys need to make that lighter, take some material out of there, make that head angle make that BB height, and then it was just like they just delivered this bike the next year, and
Yeah.
it was honestly, even now, like when I look back on some of the runs I had on that bike, they're like the bike was just so dialed, and Sabrina Jounier, she obviously
Yeah.
dominated on the bike as well. After coming off Iron Horse,
Yeah.
she was kind of on the team the next year as well. So it was kind of like Rocky Mountain, Maxis, Sabrina, Luke Strobel, and
Yeah.
myself on the downhill side, and that was super. It was a pretty cool team then. Actually,
Yeah.
it was like kind of like a team that like a lot. You'd kind of want to. I guess
Enjoy
that's
enjoy being on. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Like kind of like definitely really professional, and it was my third year on the team, so I was starting to feel more at home as well, I think, and
Yeah.
I'd learned a lot the last couple of years before that, and it was pretty. We were excited on the bike. It was super light, and it was like exactly what we wanted. So
And you pretty much copied a lot of stuff off the Iron Horse, the geometry and that to make that bike what you wanted.
for sure, yeah, just
Yeah.
like nice and low in the BB, and then just like a good head angle,
Yeah.
like pretty slack at the time. Well, it was like 65 or something, maybe
Yeah.
64, 5, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just pretty well balanced bike, and it worked out good. They nailed that. I think we were all impressed.
Yeah. And then so that led into a pretty good season in '09 then.
Yeah, South Africa was the first one, and just right off the bat, like that year before, I kind of knew I needed to work on my fitness a bit. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, kind of got like a proper professional coach and went away and worked on that, and hit the first World Cup and pulled like a sixth out. So that was like kind of my first like kind of finals result, I guess, in the top 10 or maybe even like the top 20. So it was just like bang,
Bang.
kind of like
Yeah. Straight in
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah, straight in there, yeah. And I don't know, it was kind of like I guess everyone is kind of traveling there. It was pretty neutral territory for
Yeah.
like it wasn't like racing in New Zealand, it wasn't like racing in Aussie, but it wasn't like racing in Europe. And then all the Euro guys came out, and then
Yeah.
it was kind of like we met halfway. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty good to get a start like that for sure.
And then once you've done that, you probably know you can do it again, or you've got a lot more
Yeah,
confidence in yourself to do more good results like that.
for sure. So that's kind of like 3 years after, like obviously, um, having won world champs and been, recognised as a junior kind of thing. And then, obviously it just took, and then the injury.
Looking at some of your results, you probably always kind of put together your best runs when it was like the pressure on at the World Cup rather than like a smaller race.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think you ride differently especially when you're in that mindset.
Yeah.
You almost need that atmosphere, and it's like that's the goal you're focusing on. Like the other shit just is a distraction almost. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Good time on the bike, but it's just
you're not going to put it all in for a race run at a
no,
IXS Cup.
Yeah, you're not peaking. Like you're not hitting your peak mentally or physically or whatever. But whatever it was, I was ready to go that next week, and like right from the first run, it was just like super comfy, and the bike was dialed on that track. Like the front end was just working so good, and just cornering, and the tires were like the right tires and everything. Yeah, so just put down a pretty good run. Yeah, that's kind of like there's probably 4 runs that I've ever done that are like I've been in that kind of like I've had that kind of experience, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how there can be that few, like runs where you're like that was right.
You think
others
about
are like your whole career.
Yeah, you think about all the races you've done from when you were 15 to like even now.
Yeah.
Like still racing, I'm like still searching for the 5th one. I'm like, I'm like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't mean you're gonna win, but it's just that feeling you get where you're just totally zoned.
Yeah,
and
it just happens, I guess.
You get to the bottom, and you're like, that was insane. Like you were like on the edge of the grip, and like
Yeah.
So I'm still looking for number 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that run went really well, and you got a second at Fort William. It's pretty close too, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like 0.4 or point something. It was really close. Yeah. So, and that was G at home. So that was anytime, like Greg is real good at Fort William. So anytime you beat someone like Greg at Fort William, it was good. So I guess that's when I was like, okay, shit, this is like for real. Like you go 9th and then 2nd, and then I think after that I had the like number 3 plate or something. It's like, and then you're like going into qualifying, and you're the 3rd guy off at the start on qualifying, and you're up there, and the guy in front of you's got the leader's jersey on. Like that's pretty much like, I guess, like in my career, it's like that's when you're like I'm living my dream kind of right now, sort of thing. Yeah. And the World Cup is better than a World Champs, I reckon, because it's like consistency over a season. So for me, being consistent at a World Cup is like, it's more of a test than a one-off race. It's a different. The World Champs is an art, and the other one's more of like a science. I think it's more of
everything has to go right every week, rather than put everything into one great run.
For sure.
But then you got Loic, and he's done both. So.
That's it for sure, and that's insane. Whereas like Fabian Burrell, he's really good, but he was more of an artist at the World Champs than he was the other stuff. But it's if you can do both, man, that's actually insane. Yeah.
It took him a while too, like Loic, to actually figure out the World Cup, I think. Whereas
sure,
he was real good for putting the World Champs run together every year.
Yeah, I don't know how you get to that point where you can just do a World Champs run, but you're like, he's like, what was he when he was like 21 when he won that Andorra one, was he, or something?
Yeah, pretty young. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. And then he just couldn't work that other stuff out for a while. But yeah, I would have thought with especially a guy like that, it'd be the other way around. Obviously, like racing with him in 2011 a bit, and he was kind of, I guess we'll get to that in a bit anyway.
Yeah.
When I realised that having different setups for different tracks was kind of like ideal, because I missed the first World Cup in South Africa. All the team went there, and it wasn't amazing for anyone. Bruni was second year junior. Blinky was still there. We had another guy, Patrick Tome, as well on the
Yeah.
team. And yeah, no one really went that well in South Africa. And then we went to Val di Sole, which was the second World Cup, and it was my first World Cup back.
Yeah.
And the bike on the steeper stuff actually felt real good. Like it was,
Yeah.
because it was a bit more like forgiving in the rear and just set the fork up good and just come down that steep kind of like dropping stuff
Yeah.
where like Val di Sole has those big compressions and those big hits where those rocks are in the ground and stuff. It felt real good there. So um, shit, I had like 81 plate or something because I had no point because
Yeah.
I hadn't raced a race because I was out for 9 months with my arm. I hadn't
Yeah.
raced a race for
Yeah.
so long. I think I went to Queenstown Dirt Masters or something
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
3 weeks before the first World Cup I was doing.
Yeah.
I went there and just punished laps down there and then did that race and then flew over to Europe and yeah, just hit that one and yeah, pulled out a fifth. So that was like, actually for me, that's like one of the, probably actually kind of like a highlight of my career to come back from that injury
Yeah.
and go straight back to a, like, you know, to go from
Proper
Chambéry
track. Yeah.
yeah, proper track, like, you know, minimal racing, but, you know, obviously just training and stuff. And just, yeah, that was kind of when I realized shit, the mindset stuff that I'd done all that work on the years before was
Yeah.
really like coming to work for me because I could just turn up and just go like that and I was on and it didn't
Yeah.
matter what had happened before that or after that or whatever. It was just like I was there and just I had my recipe and my recipe was working for me.
Sick.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was a good one.
Was it just you on the podium for the team, or you guys did pretty well there? I think.
Just me, I think. Yeah, I think Blinky was maybe like a top 10 as well, and then I
Yeah.
think Bruni might have. I think that was that year they had. It wasn't juniors race with the elites, but they did
Yeah.
have a junior podium. I think that
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah. I
So,
think so. Yeah.
so him and Richie Rude were kind of going at it that year, and he was on the podium for the juniors. So I think he might have won that one. So
Sick.
yeah, it was a pretty good weekend for the team. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
then the rest of that season went pretty well, or coming back.
Yeah, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
A little bit. I was a little bit inconsistent with some things, but yeah, like Val d'Isere, I actually qualified first at
Yeah. And
that
then
World Cup.
you qualified first.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then that's obviously that was kind of a new thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I qualified third before, but not first. And then yeah, like like in my run, I came over this hill, and there was just the track was just it was drying out. It was just so blown out, and there was like a rock in this corner, and I literally just slid out, lost my front wheel, and got back on and just charged as hard as I could. But I was way back on the first split and just like kind of just rode the wheels off it and kind of got back up there. But yeah, it was, you know, pretty good. It was kind of another one of those tracks where it felt good on the bike because it was steeper,
Yeah.
and a bit more kind of suited to our bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Brooke obviously won that. It was his first World Cup win. So
Yeah.
I was over in that side of the keyhole, just like you're just blowing it like hands, head in my hands, and Brooks on the other side just like pumping his fists, like
Shit.
yeah. So I was kind of like I was pretty, you know, obviously stoked for him, but like just like I
Yeah.
knew I
Yeah.
just
Well,
pretty
uh,
solid opportunity. Yeah,
yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
you know,
Probably a chance to win. Yes. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you know, and when I qualified that run, I was like, man, that was weird. Like I just felt like I was just riding, like
Yeah.
because the track was pretty techy. Like it was kind of had some skinny bits and some kind of janky bits, and then it kind of had these real fast bits where you were just pinned
Yeah.
going across like the ski piece thing, and then like back into the woods over some rocks and stuff. And it was pretty. The tempo was like fast, slow, fast, so it was pretty hard to ride it good. And I
Yeah.
think that's why I kind of I don't know the quality went so well. Just kind of judged it, but yeah, so pretty inconsistent overall that year. The bike was kind of like on or off, and then I was on or off, and yeah,
Yeah,
like Wyndham just struggled like big time.
yeah. But
Montanam wasn't
but I
too
think
bad, but
Bruni and Blinky got on the podium. Wyndham maybe.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was yeah. I think Bruni as a junior had
yeah, podium.
really. Did he have a top five?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got his jersey from that race.
that's nuts, man.
So it was like his first podium, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's yeah,
yeah.
that's gnarly as a junior, and that track is like hard to race. Like,
It's on the limit, but like such a
I
fine line as well. And
I
yeah,
just never. Yeah, like we went there for like a Pro GRT a couple of years, like '08,
yeah,
and it was real sick. I had a good time, and the racing was good. And went back for another Pro GRT in 2009, and I was like, yeah, this place is sick. Like, get a World Cup here. And then as soon as the World Cup goes there, I just couldn't race it. Like, I don't know what
yeah.
it was, but those short tracks with that real attacking kind of,
When
like you just have to be
yeah,
so on it. Never really that good. But
yeah. When you're in the team with Blinky and Bruni, then did you guys all ride together or in practice and stuff, or do you just do your own practice?
I kind of did my own thing, and I
Yeah,
don't know if it was better or worse, but I just had my recipe, I just like
yeah,
did what I did. I kind of found that riding with other people would sometimes get in my head a little bit, and it would sort of
yeah.
throw me off 'cause I didn't really like practicing that fast. Like I was kind of just like just trying to dial the track, like focusing on that than riding fast, and then I'd
Yeah,
kind of build my speed up through the weekend. But like Blinky's like he can just learn a track so quick. He'd be like he should. At one point there, I thought, shit, this guy should just do 2 runs and then go quali because he'd be like
really.
on, he'd be on the foot, like he'd be on the foot. That's it's probably why his enduro was like he's so good at that is because he
Yeah,
2 runs and he's dialed. Like I was just like, man, you got to not ride so much because he likes to ride, Like he'll
yeah,
just do
yeah,
that all day. But
yeah,
um, yeah, he just, I don't know. Him and Bruni were riding quite a lot together at that point, and
yeah,
yeah, they kind of had their own thing going on, and I probably had my own thing going on too, and that was working for me. So
yeah.
I was just like, that was what I was up to. Yeah,
Did you think that looked like then? Did you think Bruni would be what he is now?
yeah, I reckon. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's just like super mellow about everything, and you could just see he was like so like real thoughtful and calculated and but he could also balance that by, if we're staying at the accommodation, like he'd be a dickhead and just start throwing like cereal around with like, me and Blinky or whatever. Like
yeah,
he's like makes it fun too, And
yeah,
yeah, I know that's key, to like sustaining like that kind of like that being
yeah.
good at it
To
along
keep
sort of thing.
going for a long time, yeah, as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
being good and being able to like switch off, like once the weekend's done, like switch off
yeah,
and have a laugh or whatever, or even before the race, just to like bring everyone down or just like get down a bit,
yeah,
like. But yeah, pretty much you could sort of because his first race was like Fort William, and I think he qualified at that, and that was like 2011. So any junior that goes to a World Cup and qualifies straight off the bat is pretty good, But
yeah, yeah,
obviously now it's a bit different. You can't really tell, you can't compare. But then it was like it was, apples
yeah,
and apples because we were all on the same track, we had the same
yeah,
shirt. He was
yeah,
just in there, so yeah. That was when EWS kind of came on the scene, and that was kind of I guess for me that was a bit of a weird one too because Graves was down and enduro,
yeah,
and then he made enduro kind of his thing because he was like pretty good at it, like straight away, and obviously it was like pretty new, and he was real super motivated to like do
yeah,
well at it. So
yeah.
yeah, it was kind of like the Yeti team was like kind of set up for downhill, and it was
Mhm.
like downhill's the thing. We want to win downhill races, but then the actions of the team didn't actually align with that.
Yeah,
So I was like, we were like I was testing some like stuff out, trying to dial the bike in because bike wasn't great, and we went to the first World Cup and I blew my shock up and lost a heap of time and ended up like 16th or something and had like oil all over my shoes and stuff when I got to the bottom. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, when did that happen? Because like, yeah, it was just like kind of weird sort of thing. And so yeah, we worked pretty hard on that to like get the bike dialed in, and
Yeah.
then it was just like me up on the hill, kind of like on my own, just like trying to find a way through, and then yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty much, obviously like with Jared being like a real Yeti kind of, he was their boy, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess as soon as enduro was the thing and he was winning, they were like, oh, I just kind of channeled more resources that way, and then me and Richie saw a little bit less, and actually that sort of came to be true because at the end of that season, I had signed for 2 years
Yeah.
to race with them. At the end of that year, they were like, "Oh, we're not doing downhill World Cups anymore." In 2014,
Yeah.
they said, "Do you want to do EWS, this new thing or whatever it was back
Yeah.
then?" And I guess it was a couple of years old, but it was sort of really getting some traction. Um, and I was like, "Nah, I still want to win some World Cup like downhill races, like that was still my goal."
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, nah, no thanks. Which, looking back, was like that was the decision I made. I was a downhill guy and I wanted to race downhill and win downhill races.
Yeah.
So they just let me out of the contract and they actually paid my salary to race the next year.
Yeah.
But the only thing was it was like so late in the year. It was like December. So I was like trying to find a team when all teams were full.
Yeah.
And in the end, I ended up going over to Commensale,
Yeah.
riding addiction with the Rufin family.
Yeah.
Um, and that was cool. That was a really, really good move. It was a pretty good season. So yeah, all in all, 2013 wasn't that good. It was just like
Yeah. And the big
just
injury in Andorra, no?
yeah,
Yeah.
had a hugie, just went straight over and just
Left in
tried
the
to
helicopter.
left in a
Yeah.
helicopter again. So yeah, it was like, and that was just a result of me riding to like my abilities and pushing the bike really hard, and I don't think the bike was up to it.
Capable. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like just trying to ride the wheels off it, and it just the bike wasn't there. Like it was super risky trying to ride a bike that
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
that well set up or
Over the limit. Yeah.
yeah, over the limit. But that's like I felt that was my speed, so it's kind of
Yeah.
hard to, in my head, And like I think before the split before, I was like kind of top 10 kind of thing, and then yeah,
Yeah.
just like full, just jump, case, hooked up, and just tomahawk,
Yeah.
and then
It's a
yeah, just
huge.
yeah, crawled off the track, and then yeah, kind of like back to square one, like
Yeah.
trying to spend my off season bouncing back from an injury kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But the recovery went well for that. That was you broke some vertebrae or what was the?
yeah,
Yeah.
just like crushed like T7. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like think I don't know when I actually because I spent 9 days in hospital, like chipped some teeth, concussion, sore neck, sore arms. Like I was just fucking beaten up, like
Yeah.
just full on, You know what it's like when you just
Yeah.
get impact like that. Like
Yeah.
you can break one bone, but like you just hurt head to toe,
Yeah.
like in like 9 days. I was like, yeah, and then
Yeah.
flew back to New Zealand and had a bit of a recovery at home, and yeah, just spent like yeah, kind of like the next. I think I got pretty lucky actually. Like looking back on that crash, like if you,
Yeah.
it's
It was a bad
it's
looking crash.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's on YouTube. Like if you look at that and you're like, we've all seen like Brooks crash last year, and there's been a few other ones. Remy
Yeah.
Tirion had one a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah.
I think my one, yeah, definitely like pretty lucky. So yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't change that because it could be way worse. So the last World Cup I ever did was Maribel that year, and I just got I don't know what it was, but I just got smoked. Like I didn't even qualify. I've
Yeah.
two World Cups I never qualified for. One was Bromont in 2009, and I had swine flu.
Yeah.
So trying to ride and like I couldn't see, so that's
Yeah.
like understandable. But this one, I was like totally fine, and I just got, and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, shit, I'm fuck, like, because I didn't have a contract lined up for the next year. I was like, shit, I got to do something, you know. So just worked real hard between the last World Cup and World Champs in Norway,
Yeah.
and went to Norway and got like 13th. So I was pretty stoked on that, or 15th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Shit.
so, but that was a good track. That track is sick. That's a
Yeah,
really good
it's
track.
got a bit of everything, that track.
Yeah, it's a really good track, and it's a good place. Like,
Yeah.
it's sick up there, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Probably
pretty hard.
one of the coolest places we race, I guess.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
reckon,
For
for sure.
downhill. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for downhill, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
But
going
then,
away.
yeah, it's quite expensive though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Beaches.
Then,
Finish at the beach.
yeah. Then,
Yeah.
you got a deal for the next year out of that result.
I had a couple of offers, but honestly, um, the offers I had, I sort of wasn't confident that the teams and the equipment and stuff would let me achieve my goals. And I was kind of the year before, I just like worked so hard to come back from like my broken back and that
Yeah.
injury, like mentally and physically, like, you know, worked
Yeah.
kind of like 10 months straight, you know, to like get ready for that year. And then that year, just like with the whole suspension thing and just really just like, I don't know, boss not really coming up with a solution, you know, like kind of being let down. Like, you know,
Yeah.
when you're a Kiwi, like you train all summer, you're like ready to go, and then you're like away all year and
Yeah.
like you're living out of your suitcase. And like, if you're not where you want to be or where you think you can be, and you're kind of fighting these things that you have really no control over because, you know, they're like, you know, these teams are like paying your bills, they're paying for you to travel and do
Yeah.
all the stuff. And you're thinking, well, aren't they hiring me to like, you
Perform.
know, kind of perform? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're not kind of coming up with solutions or like fronting up with
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I was just like, oh, well, if if I can't get on some products in a team that I feel like I can be like a top 10 guy on again, then I'm not gonna like really waste my time. So it kind of like I had a couple of offers and I was like, actually no thanks, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where it got to. And I don't know, like I guess it was kind of weird, right? Like kind of downhill it had kind of gone like that. It kind of gone on that trajectory from like 2008, 9, 10. It was like getting better, and then it just kind of flattened right off. And
Yeah.
it seemed like there was less money around. And then enduro was coming on, so like brands were like figuring out what they were actually up for doing and what they wanted
Yeah.
to do. And I think riders were doing the same, you know, like downhill guys were like, I want a piece of that. And then,
Yeah.
you know, there were enduro guys who were like coming and doing some downhill, whatever. And it was just a weird time for gravity racing, you know, like, so I think,
Yeah. A lot of change. Yeah.
yeah, maybe the brands were being conservative with their money and stuff and just weighing up,
Yeah.
like kind of
Or
waiting a couple of years to see
or they
what
push
was
too
happening.
much into enduro because it's new, so then they were like trying to push real hard in that, but like just to be in the new thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
was kind of the Yeti thing, right? It was like, oh,
Yeah.
here's this thing. Our guys, like, that's been on our team for years is doing real well, so let's like support them kind of thing. So I guess it was kind of, yeah, probably dictated by the riders a bit. But yeah, changing time. You can kind of see a couple of years after that, once it all settled down,
Yeah.
downhill teams looked like they kind of got a bit more money again, and it was
Yeah.
like kind of
It's
a wave.
back to
It,
where it was.
yeah, it went
Yeah.
up again, and now it's like it's on a new level now, you know, and
Yeah.
it's maybe enduro's kind of helped that because it's really distinguished kind of that downhill thing is what you said before was like less riders going to these races. It's more
Yeah.
of an elite thing, whereas, you know, enduro's kind of been marketed as
Yeah.
more of a participation thing. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I can go to an EWS now with no points and do an EWS 100 and I ride
Yeah.
past you. kind of thing. So,
or you can ride around probably with me or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
do the training the day before and stuff.
yeah.
So it's kind of, guess it's kind of distinguished that participation sport.
And they've discovered that enduro is not this in the same way marketable as downhill because you can't publicize it the same.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't have a live TV show for an hour and a half and get
no,
the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, not at the moment anyway.
no.
So
Well,
yeah,
it'll never be the same. Like downhill's always going to be the pinnacle. Yeah,
for sure. That's the Formula One, isn't it? Really, I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
what they say. Yeah.
yeah. But then you went to school for a while there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I actually got an injury too, like about the same time. So I
yeah,
like busted my ankle up. So I just channeled all my energy that I'd been spending on all my racing. Yeah, and just went to university and had studied some business and ended up. I started doing actually. They call it a BCom, Bachelor of Commerce in New Zealand,
yeah,
and I did first year law papers as well, just to kind of keep my options open. I didn't really know
yeah,
where I was heading at that point, and then kind of took an interest in marketing stuff, and then decided to major in marketing and international business, and did 3 years of that, and that was 2015, 16, and 2017.
yeah,
Yeah, that kept me out of trouble for a little bit.
yeah. And
Um,
but the injury kind of dragged on as well with Achilles tendon
yeah, so
issue.
I had some complications with the ankle and the tendons on the inside of the ankle and the Achilles as well. Probably actually more the tendons on the inside of the ankle, so like after the first or second surgery, I had one of the screws on the inside of my ankle was like had undone itself and was sticking out into
Right.
the tendon, and the
Shit.
tendon was like split in half, and like the middle of the tendon was like rubbing on the screw. So
Oh,
that was just super irritating, and I couldn't. I was like, why is my calf not really working? Like I
yeah,
couldn't even do like a calf raise, like with it was really weak, and that
yeah,
was I I was doing some mountain biking and some gym training and stuff, and still trying to keep fit because like now I'm still like competitive, obviously not to the same level, but being fit and being able to go race is still like a passion for me kind of thing. So
yeah,
um, so I was trying to get fit to go back and do some racing, and it just took so long, and had another surgery and kind of come right. So that took about 3 years actually. So the
shit.
time I was studying, I was kind of like in and out of surgery and
Yeah,
in and out of rehab and the gym and road bike and mountain bike a little bit and stuff. So it was pretty like kind of big change, but it's all right now. Actually, I have to keep on top of it. Like my whole body is kind of if I'm in the gym and stretching and doing all my just keeping moving and like
yeah,
lifting a bit of weight and stuff. I can function a lot better, and I'm just stay healthy, kind of prolong my body and like
yeah,
my kind of lifestyle for as long as I can,
yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the moment you stop moving, then everything comes back, and you start to haunt you. Probably like you see with people, as soon as they stop, they kind of go to shit. Eh?
For sure, and that's not, I enjoy being like fit and outside, and that's kind of why I do like the job I do, but also why I still ride bikes and keep competitive with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
and now you're trail building full time. So
yeah,
yeah,
doing that, and I did a bit of work for the Santa Cruz. So when I left uni, I went and I got like a part-time 20-hour week job doing Santa Cruz
yeah,
account management and kind of just general marketing coordinator type role across the North Island. And so just like doing a bit of event stuff, doing team stuff as well, and looking after ambassadors and things. And that's kind of when I took off with that. And then about the same time, one of our mates, Byron, he had a job going, so I went and did bit of work for him, just as I was finishing uni during the
Yep.
holidays before my last exams, and yeah, kind of got into that as well, and just started doing a bit of that and a bit of the Santa Cruz work. Um, Actually, High Performance Hardware, they've got Ibis, Juliana, and Santa Cruz, so I was doing all those
Yep.
brands across the North Island and online and stuff as well. And yeah, then just yeah, sort of the trail building just got more and more busy, and then I sort of Byron said, "Oh, do you want to sort of take like a franchise of the Trail Pro brand?" So I took that on and kind of just been growing that for the last. It's coming up 3 years, so been working on that, and I'm still doing some Santa Cruz stuff as
Um,
managing.
People don't really realize how hard it is for Kiwis or Aussies going to the World Cup. Like, if you even been here now, I'm in the UK, it's pretty easy. You know, you just
Yeah,
put your car on the boat and you're in Europe.
sure. Yeah, that's it. And
You're on the continent. You know.
you
Yeah.
can access those tracks any time really. Like
Yeah.
you can go and ride a lot of that stuff. And in New Zealand, you just it's like it's epic, and it's
Yeah.
costs money too. It costs a lot of
Yeah.
money, and that's might be getting more expensive soon as well. So
Yeah.
it's like
Probably
it's
probably will get harder. Yeah.
yeah, it'll get harder for sure. So yeah, it's yeah, any Kiwi that is any Kiwi that's into it and they're like making the effort, it's you know, got
Yeah.
respect for that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and even if they don't make it, I think though it's still quite a good experience. Like
for
you
sure.
you learn more doing that than you do at a year of school. I think
Oh,
your
yeah,
first year going to Europe and try and figure it out yourself is like the best thing you can do for yourself.
oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, like yeah, like yeah, as you say, I'm a big advocate for that too. Like it's just that you don't learn that shit
Yeah,
sitting in a classroom or even at work doing
yeah,
like a normal job. Like that stuff prepares you for,
yeah,
because it's kind of like we said at the start of the show. It's like that, when you're a privateer or when you're doing it like fending for yourself like that, that's when all the shit always goes wrong
yeah,
because you learn, right? Like shit
yeah,
happens and you deal with it as it comes up. And being able to be in a stressful situation, like you're in Italy, you've never been there before,
yeah.
you can't read, you can't understand the language, and then you're just like on a train going that direction,
The
and you
rock.
just stop,
Yeah,
and you're blowing it out, and you're like way up this valley when you should be over here, kind of thing,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
figure it out, and that builds good characters for sure. Yeah,
And yeah, your problem solving, it's like
yeah,
pretty good. Yeah. That's
yeah, for sure.
probably the best thing we can take from the show is just to encourage people to have a crack, I guess.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like
like,
that stuff still carries me now.
yeah,
Like if a machine shits itself at work, like the other day, the skid steer we have that moves the material around on site just stopped in the middle and it had no hydraulic fluid in it and we couldn't move it.
yeah,
So we couldn't drive it onto a trailer and take it to a mechanic. So we had to figure out how to get it on the trailer and just stuff like that. Like
yeah,
shit happens, you're not ready for it, but you deal with it and
yeah,
you keep going. You just don't give up. You don't stop. Like, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it. You keep going. You don't stop. I guess all those injuries and stuff that I've had, it's kind of like the same thing. Or if you're like a South African that's wanting to go to Europe and race, you just got to
yeah,
get out there and do it.
yeah, and it'll work out
Yeah,
if you want to do it. Like even if your budget's too low or whatever, you figure out a way. Like
yeah, for sure.
once you're there, you're just thinking on your feet. Like you're
Yeah,
gonna have to
and
meet people or do something, and then someone will help you.
Uncle
Yeah,
Slim for sure. And it's even if you have this dream to like become a professional mountain biker, and if you don't do that, but you've had all that experience, you're
yeah,
still better off,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you're still way ahead of most people. Like
yeah,
average people that don't have those experiences don't have the same quality of life as, people that
yeah.
have had those
They
experiences. Yeah,
they didn't learn all that stuff, and they don't know. You know, that's the lessons of travel was pretty good. Eh?
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, it's been bloody good. Good chat.
Yeah, horse.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We'll
thanks,
have to
man.
get you back for some social World Cups next year.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should start a thing.
Social
Yeah,
World Cup.
yeah. They won't be social if there's no crowd there, though.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty bad. Like I wouldn't,
yeah,
to be honest, I wouldn't even want to go to one if there's no crowd. Like compared to racing a normal World Cup, that's like the hype of it, the energy.
for sure. I tell you, I won't be there. That's for sure.